Alright, so this is a video lesson for section 1.9, which is the final section in chapter 1. And it's a bit of a culmination of everything we have done in chapter 1. Everything that we have covered appears in the problem types present in 1.9. In on itself, 1.9 doesn't present anything new. You're not going to learn a different way of solving problems here per se, but it's a combination of what you've done prior to this point. So let me give you an example here. Here we have, let's say, something very simple. 2x plus 3 equals to 1. You learned what an equation is. So this is an equation. You know how to deal with variables. You learned that early in the chapter. And then in section 1.7 and 1.8, you learned how to solve equations that contained variables. And you used inverse operations for that. And you can refer to my videos prior to this for information on inverse operations. But specifically, inverse operations are opposite operations, operations that undo each other. So with addition, you would use subtraction. With multiplication, you use division, and vice versa. In 1.7 and 1.8, you always had a single operation. It was either, let's say, x plus 3 equals to 1, or it was 2x equals to 1. So you only had to deal with a single operation. It was either addition, or subtraction, or multiplication and division. So you used the opposite operation. It was multiplication. You divided both sides to keep the balance, and you were done. In 1.9, we do two-step equations. And they're aptly named this way because it takes you 2 steps to solve equations like this. And the reason for that is because we have 2 different operations that take place within the equations found in 1.9. For example, within this problem, the first operation is right here. It's multiplication. So we're multiplying the 2 and the x. The second operation is right over here. And this is addition. We're adding the 3 onto x. So prior to this point, you would have one or the other. Now, in and of itself, this really isn't any difficult. You know how to deal with either one of those. The only trick to 1.9 is which one do you tackle first? Because you know how to get rid of a plus 3. You do the inverse operation. The opposite of a plus 3 is a minus 3. You know how to get rid of multiplied by 2. The opposite of multiplied by 2 is divide by 2. And you do the same thing on both sides. But which one do you tackle first? The plus 3 or the multiplied by 2? Technically, you can tackle either. And you would eventually get the same right answer. But there is the easier route to take. And the easier route to take is to tackle whichever operation is physically further away from the variable. Think of it as peeling an onion, and you want to get the outer layer first before you get to the inner layer. So here, if we're looking at the variable here, the x, the 2 is pretty close. It's attached at the hip with the x. They're right next to each other. The 3 is further away. And that is my tip to you when dealing with two-step and then later on multi-step equations as well. Work your way from the outwards all the way to the inside, and your goal is to get x all alone. So I want to deal with this first because that's further away. And I'm going to rewrite this here real quick. So I'm dealing with my further operation first, which is the plus 3. It's a plus 3. To do the opposite, I subtract 3. That's the opposite of adding 3. But do remember that whatever is done to one side of the equation has to be done to the other side to keep the balance. Because otherwise you are no longer keeping the problem the same on either side. You are shifting the balance. So over here, that's a 0. Plus 3 minus 3, they are opposites on either side of the number line. They cancel each other out. The sum of two opposites is always 0. And then over here we have 1 minus 3. So if you convert the 1 minus 3 into addition, it's 1 plus a negative 3. Different signs, you subtract their absolute values, and you choose whichever sign the bigger number has, negative 3. So the answer is negative 2. Perfect. Now we have one thing left to do, and that's get rid of the 2. One step, you already got rid of your second step, so here there's no question as to what should you do next. Of course, get rid of the 2. It's being multiplied. We do the opposite. So what's the opposite of multiply by 2? It's divide by 2. And of course, we have to do that to both sides of the equation to keep our balance intact. So on the left side, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And thanks to the identity property, we don't have to write that 1 because 1 times anything is the number itself. So I'm simply going to skip that. Technically, there's that 1 in front of it, but we don't have to write it. Over here, negative 2 divided by 2, you're dividing with different signs. The rules are if you divide or multiply with different signs, the answer is automatically negative. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So x is negative 1. Are we sure? Well, we can test that out. I can take our solution, our answer here, and plug it into the original equation right here and see if it works. So I want to do that. Because if I have the right answer, and I'm sure that I have the right answer, I hope, I should be able to check it. So I'm going to plug it in right there. I'm going to write it on the side here. So I have 2 times negative 1 plus 3 equals to 1. 2 times negative 1, different signs, automatically negative. That's negative 2 plus 3 equals to 1. Here we have addition with different signs, a slightly different set of rules. You choose the number that's greater, that's the 3, so the answer is going to be positive. And then you subtract the absolute values of 3 and 2, it's 1. And positive 1 equals to 1. So this is indeed correct. We have done our problem correctly. So let's take a look at a different example. This one's a bit tougher. I mean, the numbers are a little bigger, but most importantly, instead of having addition and multiplication like I had in the previous problem, here now I have subtraction right over here, and I have division right over there. So it's a two-step equations because there are two operations that I have to deal with. And again, individually, this is not a problem. You know how to deal with minus 5. You know how to get rid of a minus 5, do the opposite, plus 5. How to get rid of a divided by 3, do the opposite, you multiply by 3. But once again, we have both of them here at the same time. Which one do I tackle first? Again, technically, you're not going to get the wrong answer if you tackle the wrong operation first. You will, however, make the problem more difficult if you tackle the wrong operation. So I suggest you start with the furthest operation first, and that's the minus 5. It will make your life easier. So how to deal with a minus 5, how to get rid of minus 5, we'll do the opposite, which is a plus 5. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side as well. So minus 5 plus 5, that is going to give us a 0. I'm not going to write that. 7 plus 5, that's going to give us a 13. And then I'm going to get rid of the divided by 3 by doing the opposite. I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. On the left, 3 divided by 3 is just y itself. On the right, it is 39. And you can check your work by plugging this in here, and it should come up with the right answer. If you have any questions, please see me during class, or just ask me questions during class, or see me after school. Thank you very much.